This first hook method is aptly named the closure paradigm and is incredibly powerful, and it explains why cliffhangers in TV shows and movies are really frustrating and why it pushes you to come back and watch again next week. So if we can understand the psychology behind why it works, then we can start to use it in our hooks. Here's the closure paradigm in full force in an episode of The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah, but I just told you, I don't have a problem with closure. That proves nothing.
So what just happened there? Amy performed a sequence of tasks for Sheldon and leaves them unfinished, like knocking down a set of dominoes and stopping right before the last one. This drives him crazy, and by the end of the episode he's so frustrated that he has to recreate all of the tasks and secretly complete all of them in sequence to make himself feel better. In the 1920s, psychologist Bloomer Zygarnik noticed that people have a better memory for tasks that are incomplete than ones that are complete. This is because your brain stores information temporarily in sensory memory, and if the task is not finished, it repeats and loops that memory in your brain over and over so that you don't forget it, because your brain is thinking, you need to finish this later, and if you don't, you might be at risk of danger in some way. Incomplete tasks cause cognitive friction or tension in your brain, and the only way to release that friction is by completing the task, or in the case of a YouTube viewer, watching the video until you have closure. In psychology, this is called the Zygarnik effect, but that's not catchy, and hence the closure paradigm sounds way cooler. So in your YouTube video hook, you should create a moment that goes unfinished, like a really impactful sentence, but the last few words are cut off, and instead it jumps to a completely new sentence. Now your viewer is forced to watch the video so they can hear and learn what you're going to say in the conclusion of that sentence. This also works really well for visual cues. For example, if you're attempting an acrobatic stunt and you cut the video off right as the jump is about to land. The Zygarnik effect is great for content that has a narrative, so it's perfect for stories or science and curiosity videos, where you ask the audience a question and begin to show them the answer, but then jump back in time to give them more context, forcing the viewer to wait for that tension release when you finally unveil the answer at the end. That's why Vsauce science videos are so compelling, but they take it a step further and add the special sauce. They add the same iconic music track into each video, which cues you into curiosity mode.
You kids have it now. Well, as it turns out, both.
There's also a really advanced way to multiply the power of the Zygarnik effect, which Joey from the channel Man-Made does, to absolute perfection. But before we talk about that, for this second hook method, I've pinched it straight from sales experts, because your YouTube hook is in effect a sales pitch. You are trying to convince the audience to make a decision. That decision being to agree to spend a few minutes with you and watch to the end of the video, based on what you tell them in the hook. That means a lot of good sales tactics will also work in YouTube hooks. In sales, when you want to pull in someone's attention, it's often from the context of a cold open, which means they don't know who you are or what you do. This is the same for most of your YouTube videos, as more often than not, over 50% of your audience will be new viewers, especially in the early days. So you need to do something to get their attention, and that has to be different to what they're used to hearing, otherwise their brain will just switch off and it'll be white noise. So as a sales guy, you can't say, "Hey Sarah, this is John from Dyson Vacuums and we here just released a really premium blah blah blah," because if you read or hear that, you immediately switch off because you've identified it's a generic sales pitch. So instead, a clever salesperson might say something like this: "Hey Sarah, this is not about vacuums, this is not about dusters, this is not even about cleaning." Then you go on to say that you've invented something new and wonderful, like, "This is about you getting to spend more time with the kids, which you can do when you acquire a Roomba today." Essentially, what you are doing is listing all of the things the potential customer expects you to say, and then be like, "Oh no, we have something new that will actually help or interest you." In a YouTube context, this works really well if you want to show someone how to do something or how to use something in a totally new way, because you'll hit two types of viewer. The first type is someone who has already tried all of the known ways to do something and failed and loves the sound of a new easy way that they haven't heard about yet. And the second type is someone who simply doesn't believe there's a new radical way. So out of curiosity or spite, they will watch to the end of the video for the sake of finding out. But you can't always use that method or the Zygarnik effect, as your viewers will get tired of the same old tricks. So a surefire way to keep retention high through hooks is to front load value. You do this not by doing an intro or hook at all, and immediately demonstrating something useful to the audience or delivering a sudden burst of entertainment. For example, I could have completely cut out the hook in this video and immediately started talking about the Zygarnik effect and its usefulness, and how it increases viewer retention. This is kind of jarring for the viewer because it's so sudden and unexpected, which forces them to engage and pay attention in order to not get confused. Then by the time they realise what's going on, they've already learned something which is either really actionable and educational to them, or they were immediately entertained or impressed and therefore can make the choice to watch the rest of your video with confidence. If you watch short tutorials on how to do a very specific task in Excel or PowerPoint, you'll notice loads of really positive comments saying things like, "Love it, got straight to the point, and it actually worked." This is what you're trying to achieve. It works because you instantly establish yourself as useful to the viewer and a provider of what they want. So now you can get away with the rest of the video not being as valuable, or even in future videos being slightly less valuable, because you set the expectation really early on for your viewer to get what they want. Although, obviously, your intention should be to continue to provide value throughout the video so you don't waste their time and so you can keep your viewer retention really high. Because in order for you to be pushed in the algorithm, YouTube expects you to hit a certain average percentage viewed dependent on the length of your content. Also, you likely have a call to action in your video, whether it's to subscribe, comment, or check out something that you might be selling, like working with me as your YouTube growth coach, which you can do at askoucherwarren.com. And you need the viewer to get at least that far, otherwise your call to action is a waste of time, and in the case of entrepreneurs, the whole video might be a waste of time. Remember the Zeigarnik effect from earlier? This typically works by the YouTuber creating an open loop in their hook. But the power of this effect is multiplied when you combine it with two factors. The first of which is to repeat your open loop as the video progresses, to serve as a reminder to the audience of what they're waiting for. The lazy way of doing this is you can explicitly remind your audience of what's going to happen at the end of the video, either verbally or visually. Or a much cleverer way is how Joey from Man-Made does it. Joey creates very long format, complex home DIY projects, and he introduces another person at the beginning of the video who will be involved in closing the loop at the end by reacting and judging the DIY project. Just like this.
Today, I'm attempting to make a table with a real waterfall. I'm going to be revealing this project to one of the biggest woodworking YouTubers on the platform, and things don't go according to plan.
And then during the video, Joey keeps bringing back that person into the video's narrative as a reminder of what you'll be waiting for as the viewer. This drives the momentum of the video and the viewer forward together. It also has the added benefit of turning what is simply a DIY video into a fully fledged story with clear narrative throughout, which is the lens in which people observe and learn through.